Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thank you to everyone that has been liking, subscribing and viewing. The beginning message was dedicated to the Man United fans who can't stop talking about Bruno. Unfortunately, he did get back-to-back red card suspensions, so he'll have to serve both a domestic and European ban. And yeah, we'll get straight right in. So we do notice that over 73% of people are actually deciding to roll on their transfer for this game week 7. We have about 18% that are making at least one transfer. Includes us as well, because as you know, I did also make one transfer. We shall talk about that later. Then we have about 7% that are making two, and then 0 are doing 3 and above. We have 2% that have their chips active. Shall talk about some wildcard options because I know some of you are wildcarding this game week as well. So that's how the transfers for game week 7 are looking. So let's get to see who are we bringing in and who are people bringing out. So obviously, number one is the no-brainer that the number one person being brought in is Palmer after his 25-point haul last game week. We see Lewis coming in as well. Most of the people believe with Rodri out, he's going to either come to fit in his position in midfield or he can still fit in the back, either the right back or even as a left back, as we've seen that before. We see Solanke. A number of people are going for Solanke as the best Tottenham option that they're going for. Johnson, I think, is one of the people we shall look at also later on along the list, because with Tottenham, most of the people are bringing in Solanke and Johnson, because Son's fitness, even yesterday's Europa League match that they played, we didn't see him feature, so I think his fitness is still a problem. At least at this point, all the midweek games are done, so it is safe to be locking in your transfers and also try to get ahead of those price rises as well. Mbeumo is now, I think, the highest second-owned player in the game. So he's one of those people that has been brought in, and actually is the one that I brought in as well because I didn't own Mbeumo. We have Delap, the Ipswich striker. He did play very well and is a very good cheap budget striker that can remain on your bench and always swap out for different players. McNeil of Everton, playing very well, assisting, scoring. His involvement is really looking very good for Everton. Van den Berg is a Brentford defender, a very budget good defender that is, I think, beginning to also make his way into very many people's teams. Even most of the drafts for the World Cup that I've seen, he does feature as well. DCL, Collins, Havertz, obviously, Saka, Gabriel. The Arsenal assets are a no-brainer. They have Southampton next, which is a very good fixture. You can only hope that one of them can probably hold in that game or provide like a Parma-esque performance during the Southampton game, so that it's at least worth it. And then lastly, Martinelli. Then the people being taken out, Joao Pedro, his injuries have become a problem. Eze, who I personally ran out of patience for. Uh, Trent Alexander-Arnold, and that is basically to fund all the different players that people are trying to bring in. Luis Diaz, it's quite unfortunate that most of the people last week were bringing him in and now they're all taking him out. But that is the irony of Fantasy Premier League, really. And I'd like to mention that for a person that did the wildcard, let's say last game week, and it did not come out that well, it's not ideal for you to just immediately do knee-jerk reactions of sending some of these people out. Because the thing about the wildcard is that it's a long-run plan. When you're planning your wildcard, it's usually for 3 to 4 game weeks. So it's quite unfortunate that after one game week not performing very well, you would begin at shipping these people out, which is really, I feel like, a panic decision, because this is not like a free hit. A free hit is for specifically one game week. Maybe if it doesn't work out for you, then you actually do feel like it's a disappointment. But something about the wild card is that it's supposed to take you for a while. So yes, last game week may not have worked, but this game week you could end up holding with that same exact wild card team that you had on. So it's unfortunate that Luis Diaz is being brought out. Bruno, Bruno Fernandez, I know I mentioned we do not talk about him, but he's also one of those going out, and it's a no-brainer. He's suspended. He has a red card. Lewis Hall, Newcastle defense. Robinson, Fulham is playing Man City next, and their fixtures don't look good. Mo Salah, like I mentioned, really just to fund all the different options that people are trying to bring in. So that is how it's looking basically. So we shall have to look at some of the drafts for those that will be wildcarding this game week. Shout out to Fantasy Football Hub, Fantasy Football Scout, FPL Foco, FPL Tips for some of the data that we are using in this video today. So in Fantasy Football Hub, one of the teams that was picked for this specific game week, or for those that are wildcarding in this game week, we have Flecken in goal, who will be playing Wolves. We have Gabriel, Lewis, and Davis in the back. Davis was looking very, very good for Ipswich in the previous game, and seeing how West Ham is performing, if they can at least mirror what they did over last weekend, I believe Ipswich has a chance, much as they are away to West Ham. Palmer is in the midfield together with Saka, Mbeumo, Rogers. And then the front is led by Haaland, Havertz, and Solanke. Now, the thing about this is, in the previous video, we did talk about captaincy, and I believe it's about like in between 2 or 3 people, really. Haaland is a must, Saka is a must. So we shall have very many people having captaincy between Haaland and Saka because of the fixtures and really the form they are on as well. And then I think for differential captains, you'd have to look at someone like Palmer, someone like Havertz, or even someone like Salah himself for those that own him. Though the Liverpool match is always tight, Crystal Palace and Liverpool is always a tight game. And I would expect a tight game also between Chelsea and Nottingham Forest. But as we've seen in fantasy, Palmer is capable of a 4-goal haul in just the first half. So you never know really. So that is one of the drafts, and we can see a bench of Vandenberg, who we talked about, Winks and Fires as well, with Muric, the other person on defense. Then lastly, I think there is an experts team from Fantasy Football Scout, which has also Flecken in goal, Trent Alexander, Gabriel, and Lewis. So you can keep on, like I always mentioned, you can keep on picking out the common people like in all these different drafts. Then you get to know how the experts actually, which people are highly owned by the experts. In midfield, we have Mbeumo, Saka, Semenyo, and Luis Diaz. And then in the front, we have DCL, Solanke, Haaland, with Haaland being their captain and then Saka, as I mentioned, being the vice captain. The bench has Rogers, Mikolenko, Greaves, and Fabianski. So that is that. I've managed to provide at least like 2 drafts for those that would be wildcarding this game week. You could be commenting and sharing your teams. I'll make sure to respond to all the comments. FPL responsibly. See you before the deadline.